7 crazy mid-season F1 driver transfers. There's been quite a bit of chatter on the rumour mill lately about Mr. Valtteri Bottas losing his seat to George Russell at Mercedes and whether that driver swap may even happen before the end of the season. Now, I'm more than happy to stick my neck on the line here and say there is no way Mercedes would choose to remove Bottas during this season, but crazier things have happened. Hence this video that we've so kindly made for your entertainment. Here are 7 of the biggest mid-season driver transfers. Moreno out, Schumacher in, Benetton 1991. Michael Schumacher joined F1 as a stand-in for Jordan driver Bertrand Gachot, who'd been arrested for pepper spraying a London taxi driver in self-defence. Yes, that is an actual true story. Michael only did 1 race for them, and he didn't even finish the race. However, his qualifying pace was enough to make him F1's hottest property. Quickly, Eddie Jordan signed a contract with him to get him to stay at Jordan, but the cunning Benetton boss, Flavio Briatore, was already sniffing around himself. Flavio also signed a deal to get Michael in his car from the next race. Contracts became complicated, with the Jordan contract being altered to say that Michael would sign a driver agreement. That driver agreement became a straight swap, with Benetton's Roberto Moreno going to Jordan and Michael Schumacher taking the vacant Benetton seat. Palmer out, Sainz in, Renault 2017. At the end of the 2017 season, Carlos Sainz was signed by Renault to replace Jolyon Palmer, who'd been struggling a lot in his second season in F1. Jolyon had 1 points finish to his name, and his teammate Nico Hülkenberg was fighting at the top of the midfield every race. It became obvious that Jolyon would lose his seat, and just before the Singapore GP, Renault announced that Palmer was out and Carlos Sainz would join the team in 2018. However, Renault was impatient. Just weeks after announcing Carlos's new contract, they decided to put Sainz in the car from the 2017 US Grand Prix. He qualified in the top 10 and scored points in his very first race. Seems like a win to me. Trulli out, Villeneuve in, Renault 2004. Jarno Trulli's 2004 season is famous for 2 things: his only F1 victory at Monaco and being sacked by Renault at the end of the year after having a huge falling out with Flavio Briatore. The start of the year was brilliant. He was in his 3rd season with the team and looked to earn himself a 4th, but when he lost the podium to Rubens Barrichello on the last lap of the French Grand Prix, the team was not happy. Gradually, the relationship got worse, and so did Jarno's results. He was no longer scoring points, and with 3 races to go, he was replaced by 1997 champion Jacques Villeneuve, who was on the sidelines for 2004. It worked out alright for Jarno though, as he was able to go to his new team 2 races early at Toyota. Montoya out, Della Rosa in, McLaren 2006. Juan Pablo Montoya was highly sought after in F1 in the early 2000s. He was the exciting Colombian who was taking the fight to the domineering Michael Schumacher and Ferrari from his very first few races. He was so compelling that the famously boring Ron Dennis even got caught up in the buzz, and in 2003 he signed Montoya to McLaren for a 2005 start date. Deals for drivers are rarely done so early. But unfortunately for the 2 parties, it didn't go very well. Montoya found the McLaren very unpredictable to drive, and for most of the season, he couldn't get on Kimi Raikkonen's level. He did win the odd race later in the year, but Kimi was fighting for the championship. The following year, Montoya announced midway through the season that he would be driving in NASCAR in 2007 rather than F1. He was promptly sacked from McLaren, who thought there was no point in paying for a driver who didn't want to be there. They brought in reserve driver Pedro Della Rosa, who had performed well as a stand-in the year before. Della Rosa saw out the season for McLaren, and the following season some kid called Lewis Hamilton came up from GP2 to drive for them. Never heard of him. We now enter the Red Bull part of the video because, well, apparently it's a normal thing for a driver to not finish a season with them. Liuzzi in, out, Klian in, out, 2005. This was Red Bull's weird, innovative 3-driver strategy in, out, shake it all about approach, which they decided would be a good idea for their very first ever season in F1. David Coulthard was the proven race winner who had come from McLaren, so he was made number 1 driver. The number 2 role was split between Vitantonio Liuzzi and Christian Klian. Seriously, the strangest game of musical chairs we've ever heard of. Liuzzi was a Red Bull driver who had performed very well in Formula 3000 and earned an F1 shot, and Klian had been driving for the team the year before when it was Jaguar. Both drivers switched seats for certain races throughout the 2005 season, but the idea of swapping drivers every other race didn't really catch on. Kvyat out, Verstappen in 2016. One of the most famous driver swaps of recent years was when Max Verstappen was promoted to the Red Bull senior team at only 18 years old and after only one full season in F1. After 4 races of 2016, Daniel Kvyat was not performing up to scratch. He managed a podium at the Chinese Grand Prix, which was great, but his teammate Daniel Ricciardo had been leading before a puncture. For the Spanish Grand Prix, Kvyat was demoted to Toro Rosso and Max was promoted to the Red Bull. The move was vindicated straight away when Max won that race and became the youngest ever race winner in F1 history. Gasly out, Albon in 2019. If you want pure drive to survive drama, you can't look any further than Pierre Gasly being demoted to Toro Rosso midway through the 2019 season. Pierre had failed to match Max's pace all year, and for Red Bull, it just wasn't good enough. Max won 2 races in the first half of the year and took a pole position. Pierre's best result was 1 4th place. The pressure mounted, and over the summer break they brought in Alex Albon, who'd had some stellar races for Toro Rosso. He fought for a podium in the wet legitimately at Hockenheim and earned a shot with the senior team in his very first season. Albon did do better than Gasly for the most part in 2019 and got close to a podium. In 2020 though, Albon stayed but couldn't bring the fight to Max and was demoted all the way to reserve driver status. Gasly, on the other hand, won with AlphaTauri in 2020, the absolute Monza scenes, and is now the team leader there. But any avenue to the senior team looks pretty much off the cards. There you have it, some crazy driver swaps mid-season. Which one surprised you the most? Could Bottas be added to this list in the near future? Let us know in the comment section below.